being held there without bail. Many of these people have never been charged for a crime before. Some of them are veterans, and the treatment is unbelievable. They are told they have to denounce President Trump. They are told that their views are the views of cult members, even though these are men that every single night at 9 o'clock at night, they put their hand over their heart and sing the national anthem voluntarily. Imagine a group of men being held in jail with no idea of when they're going to go to court, no ability to bail out, no ability to see their family, being mistreated and abused worse than we treat terrorists at Gitmo. Yet they have their hand over their heart every night at 9 o'clock and sing the national anthem. They are ridiculed, where they are mocked because of their political beliefs and because of January 6th and because of the color of their skin. So there is a two-tier justice system, and these are the things that need to end. I believe in criminal justice reform, but I believe it should be reform that's fair completely across political lines and skin color. And I can tell you what we saw in the D.C. jail. None of that exists. When they're being force-fed gluten food and they have celiac disease, and so the food that they eat makes them sick every single day to the point where they will go without days without eating in order to just feel better because they are not given better food. I think we can clearly see that there is serious abuse happening here, and we can go beyond the silly-dilly political games.
Treatment of the Capitol police officers on that day. I mean, I was down here that day, not too far from here. We saw police officers who had been bear sprayed in their eyes and were blinded by many of these January 6th defendants that you are now drawing attention to. So I don't remember you holding a press conference about the treatment or the unusually cruel treatment of Capitol police officers.
You may not remember a particular press conference about police officers, but I have made many public statements and cried out against all violence against police officers for the BLM. For the police, specifically Capitol Police here. Congressman Gomert sponsored a bill that I co-sponsored along with him, wanting to give, medals of honor, wanted to award them for how they were treated during the January 6th riot, but also extend it to police officers all across the country. I'm not going to separate them. I am very supportive of our police, and I have consistently denounced the violence here. So do not go down that route. That would be completely unwarranted.
It's almost like people are starting to realize that when the Matt Gaetzes and Marjorie Taylor Greenes of the world grandstand about the cruel treatment of their precious insurrectionists, that they might not be acting in good faith. Imagine that. The reporter who asked this question here was Scott Wong from The Hill, and it comes on the heels of this pity campaign by Gaetz and Greene and the rest of the Freedom Caucus goons where, thank God, someone is finally looking out for the well-being of those poor insurrectionists for the crime, if you could even call it that, of breaking into the Capitol to try and assassinate the Vice President and the House Speaker for not acceding to their demands to anoint the guy who lost the election the winner. I mean, they'll lock you up for anything these days. And so Greene tries to evoke pity on behalf of the insurrectionists for these clear violations of the 8th Amendment to the Constitution, because if there's one thing the framers had in mind when they sought to forbid cruel and unusual punishment, it was locking people up even though they say the Pledge of Allegiance. The audacity to keep those people in prison. Or how they're not even given gluten-free meals. I mean, honestly, is it too much to ask for an almond flour bread base, a light cashew ricotta substitute, maybe a latte with oat milk and coconut-based whipped cream? Do we not even have a Bill of Rights anymore? But while she's using her voice to lobby for a meal plan from Whole Foods, what's especially ironic is that not once did she advocate for the police officers whom those insurrectionists sought to mow down and kill in their desperation to get into the Capitol. Which is especially strange because, and forgive me if I'm wrong, but I could have sworn that these Republicans were the party of law and order. I could have sworn they'd been peddling their Back the Blue slogans and Thin Blue Line merch when it was a convenient little talking point, but now, when they actually have to back up those bumper stickers, well, suddenly it's not so simple. Suddenly these Republicans become prison reform advocates. Convenient, huh? And just to put on full display the shamelessness, she literally brings up wanting to award the Capitol Hill Police with medals of honor for their bravery during January 6th. And lucky for her, because that exact legislation was brought to the floor, and only a small handful of Republicans actually voted against it, including You guessed it, Marjorie Taylor Greene herself. In fact, everyone doing this little press conference here, Greene, Gaetz, Gohmert, and Gosar, all voted against the legislation because nothing shows just how much you want to award the Capitol Hill Police with Medals of Honor, quite like voting against awarding the Capitol Hill Police with Medals of Honor. And just to state the obvious here, if you are worried that you may have to eat prison food, then maybe, just maybe, you take steps to stay out of prison, meaning don't storm the Capitol, don't break into the Speaker's office, don't bludgeon police officers, don't break into the House chamber. And so maybe Marjorie Taylor Greene should spend less time fomenting these insurrections and riots that ultimately landed these people behind bars, and more time offering up a Republican agenda actually worth voting for so that they won't have to attempt coups. Just, you know, a thought. And look, at the end of the day, what she's doing here is obvious. This is all part of a coordinated Republican effort to rewrite history and pretend that the insurrectionists were the victims of a rigged election by Democrats, because the big lie is the only thing that Republicans are willing to run on. And so they'll keep up this charade literally forever, because it serves as a predicate for their voter suppression laws, their purging of nonpartisan officials on elections boards, and their inevitable attempts to invalidate any election where they don't win. They know that they can't run on any agenda or platform because they have none, and so instead they have to rely on their autocratic schemes like this one. And so they'll stand up there and pretend that the bad guys are heroes because they're so resentful of their own supporters that they're willing to lie right to their faces to manipulate them. That's the fundamental difference here. Democrats treat their supporters like they're smart, Republicans treat their supporters like they're stupid in hope that they'll believe the lies that they're being fed. It doesn't matter if you identify as a Democrat or a Republican or completely apolitical, you should not believe or follow people whose sole intention is to deceive you. To see more videos like this, click the subscribe button right here on this screen. And if you want to support my work, subscribe to my podcast, No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen. I cover the most important stories each week, and my guest is always one of the top political figures, including Vice President Kamala Harris, Jen Psaki, Elizabeth Warren, Pete Buttigieg, Nancy Pelosi, Katie Porter, Cory Booker, and so many more. The podcast link is also right here on this screen, so give it a listen and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts.